prominent players speaking out for the first time in the wake of Suns owner Robert Sarver being fined $10 million and suspended for 1 year. That's following some racist comments, misogynistic behavior, and fostering a hostile work environment. But before we share with you what Chris Paul and LeBron James had to say, take a listen here to NBA Commissioner Adam Silver yesterday detailing his conversations with players as this investigation unfolded.
So I've talked to some players, and those have been private conversations. I think I'll leave it for the players to speak directly how they feel. I would only say I think disheartening. Same reaction I've had in many cases. I think these are. I think saddened as I was. I think for those players to see that we continue to deal with these issues. I think it's no secret. This is a league where roughly 80% of our players are black. More than half our coaches are black. I will say that none of them maybe are as shocked as I am living their lives, that I don't think they're reading this saying, oh my God, I can't believe this happens.
Yesterday, we heard from the players directly, notably Sun star Chris Paul, who's entering his third season in Phoenix. He wrote, quote, "Like many others, I reviewed the report. I was and am horrified and disappointed by what I read. This conduct, especially towards women, is unacceptable and must never be repeated. And I am of the view that the sanctions fell short in truly addressing what we can all agree was atrocious behavior. My heart goes out to all the people that were affected." And LeBron James also took to Twitter to express his frustration with the ruling. "Read through the Sarver stories a few times now. I gotta be honest, our league definitely got this wrong. I don't need to explain why. Y'all read the stories and decide for yourself. I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. There is no place in this league for that kind of behavior. I love this league, and I deeply respect our leadership, but this isn't right. There is no place for misogyny, sexism, and racism in any workplace. Don't matter if you own the team or play for the team. We hold our league up as an example of our values, and this ain't it." I'm joined now by Richard Jefferson and senior writer Brian Windhorst. Brian, you've covered LeBron since he was a teenager in Akron. You spent a lot of time in Phoenix last season in particular. Both of these players, they have a rich history of speaking out about injustice. What stands out to you here?
Malika, the words that LeBron used when he said, "I said this before," he's referring to what he said about Donald Sterling. He used the exact same words 8 years ago when the Donald Sterling tapes became public, and he said there's no place in our league for someone like Donald Sterling. And that was partially a tipping point that rallied other players to call for Donald Sterling to be banned from the league. There's some differences, primarily that those statements were made by him and other players before Adam Silver announced that Sterling was banned for life. In this case, they're reacting after the punishment came down. And, one thing that I think is important to realize here is that Adam Silver works for the owners. I know that the league has tried to get away from the word owner in recent years, and there's a reason for that, and I understand it. But the word owner exists because those guys and few women own the league. And the difficulty here is, I don't care where you go in the world, when you have to police yourself, it's very difficult to get fair situations. So it is unfair. And, probably, really asking too much for the players to have to hold the owners accountable here. But for this to have any change at all than what's happened, it is going to come down to players like LeBron, Chris Paul, and potentially fans and even some sponsors. Otherwise, this is going to stay the way it is.
Look, ultimately, LeBron James is the most important basketball player on the planet. Whether or not he's the best, whether or not he's the GOAT, that's up for discussion. But he is the most important player in the game of basketball on this planet. So his words do carry weight. And so when he says this, we've seen these words from him before. He has read the report, and he's asking other people to go read the report. And then why Chris Paul is so important? Chris Paul is so important because, one, he was on the team with Donald Sterling. Now he is currently on this team. And I'll add one more. He is the former head of the Players Association. So you mix all that in, and I will respect Chris Paul and LeBron James waiting for the report to come out, waiting for, the innocent until proven guilty. And so now when the league has determined that that Sarver's actions were that bad, and now the players are allowed to speak, but I said on this panel yesterday, and people were like, why does it always have to fall on the players? Well, Brian said it. Like, when you're asking the league to police themselves, it's very, very difficult. And so you've seen it in the bubble. You've seen it with social justice. You've seen it with so many different things. The players are the ones that are oftentimes asked to step forward and be the face of this league. And I commend Chris Paul and LeBron James for what they said.
Fair or unfair, it seems that this is once again falling on the players. But ultimately, Brian, what impact do you see this having?
It's hard to say, Malika. I would say at this point, it's very unpredictable what's going to happen. One of the things that's looming kind of over this is right now the owners and the players are engaged in collective bargaining agreement talks. Those talks are ongoing. There's a deadline coming up in December. And look, I'm not trying to say that would stop a player action, but it certainly is a factor that goes on. Typically in the past, when Adam Silver's basically said, this is our punishment, we've spoken. And so the only way that I think anything would change is if there's some sort of societal pressure, whether that comes from the players, comes from fans, and it comes from sponsors who would have to vote, who would have to sort of make their voices heard either with participation or with money. And it's coming in a dead part of the NBA calendar, so I just can't predict what's going to happen.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.